Every single cashed up bogan who didn't get to Cooter this year is ready to blow the lot to get a ticket. Karen from Kwinana is going to have to do a bit of shopping. And suddenly you're driving 60 hours a week for Uber and Ola just to keep your house.
You chasing a ticket to the grand final?
Yeah, if I can find one. I'm actually sucking up to sub-editors in the sports section. Every single cashed up bogan who didn't get to Cooter this year is ready to blow the lot to get a ticket, and a corporate box, that's the holy grail. They might need to tidy themselves up a little bit though. Have a look at the dress code to get into one of these things. No Uggies, no thongs, no tracky dacks, no rip curl, and no Lorna Jane. Karen from Kwinana is going to have to do a bit of shopping.
So who does get a ticket?
The grand final teams will be given thousands of tickets to pass on to their members. The last final at the MCG saw 17,500 seats given to Richmond and GWS. Now the G seat's about 100,000, so a third of all tickets disappear immediately. But if teams from Victoria or New South Wales are playing for the premiership, their fans can't come because of the hard border, which means more tickets for West Australians.
Who makes the decisions?
The WA government owns Optus Stadium through a department called Venues West. Venues West has given the contract for day-to-day operations at Optus to a private company called Venues Live. They also run Stadium Australia in Sydney. The decision on everything that happens inside the stadium is up to whoever is the hirer. In the regular home and away season, that's either West Coast or Freo. In the case of the grand final, it's the AFL. They'll tell us how tickets will be divided up early next week. They won't go on sale until we know who's actually in the grand final. AFL Chairman Richard Goyder says we can expect to pay between $185, that's up in the nosebleeds, and $422. Then there's the corporate packages. This is where the AFL makes its real money. And every ticket that goes to the big end of town means one less for mug punchers like you and me. The AFL will dictate what beer we drink while we watch the footy, and it's not going to be local brewer Gage Rhodes, which has had the stadium contract for the last couple of years. It might be mass-produced swill by CUB, which will please Karen, but it's the worst beer ever.
Never mind, plenty of spirits, and given the economy's not in the toilet, well, we can splurge.
The economy grew by 0.7% in the June quarter. Feels good, right? Maybe not good, but certainly not bad. It means we might actually dodge a recession. We might avoid 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth, which we hear Alan Kohler and Scott Pape talk about quite a lot. If the value of all goods and services bought and sold in Australia goes down in one 3-month period, and again in the immediate next 3-month period, the economy is officially in recession.
Why is 2 quarters of negative growth so bad?
It's actually not. It's a total arbitrary measure of an economy's health. Even the expression negative growth doesn't really make sense when you think about it. If the economy grows by 0.1% in one quarter and goes backwards by 0.1% the next, then we aren't in recession, and we all give each other a high five. But if it goes backwards by just a fraction in that last quarter, we all freak out. That 0.1% being positive or negative has no real impact on you and me. We've still got a job. We're still earning the same money. But that tiny percentage difference means we think twice about how we spend our money. Think about this. How often do you go to Bunnings?
I like their sausages.
Everyone does. So how often have you gone to Bunnings needing just one thing and walked out having bought just that one thing?
Literally never.
If you know Australia's in recession, you might start doing that. And if that one thing is, say, a hammer drill, you might decide against buying the good quality Bosch that you know will last a lifetime in favour of a crappy $39 Azito special. The registers at Bunnings are a major contributor to national GDP, so when the next quarterly figures are announced, they're even worse. And now you're starting to get a bit uncomfortable when you watch the news. You've still got a job, mind, you're still earning the money, things are actually still fine, but you've just got a bit of a bad feeling. You're hearing that the share market suddenly isn't doing so well. Because Bunnings is owned by Wesfarmers, and Wesfarmers is listed on the ASX, and it's just reported a drop in earnings because there's no margin in a $39 Azito hammer drill. Now, the 1 million people in Australia who have self-managed super funds have been watching Wesfarmers also, and Westpac and Commonwealth Bank. They aren't lending as much anymore because people aren't as keen to renovate. So the banks put out a profit warning. Those retirees start getting nervous. They've been here before, the 87 crash, the 91 recession, the GFC. They want security, so they go into cash. They're not going to go through all that crap again. They liquidate the share portfolio. The supply of shares now outstrips demand. What happens when that occurs?
The price falls.
Yep. And the herd mentality starts kicking in. It's not just retirees selling, it's everyone. The market drops 300 points in a day, another 400 the next. Then you hear Alan Kohler say the ASX is officially in technical correction. You have no idea what the hell that is, but it sounds bad, and you start worrying about what's happened to your super. It's down 6%. You ignore the fact that it was up 17% the previous year, so you're still way ahead, or that you're 20 years away from retirement, during which there'll be another 6 booms and 6 busts. So you switch from the high growth option, get me the hell out of Wesfarmers and CBA, you say to yourself, to the defensive stuff like term deposits and bonds. That triggers more share sales by super funds, but nobody's buying, so the price drops further. And then you hear Kohler and Pape say we've gone from being in a technical correction, the ASX is down 10% from its high, to being in a bear market, because it's down more than 20%. The company you work for is listed on the ASX, its stock's tanking and it's desperate to please its investors, so it announces a deep cost out program. A week later, you discover that cost out means you're out, and suddenly you're driving 60 hours a week for Uber and Ola just to keep your house. And all that happens because instead of being up an imperceptible 0.1% in a 3-month period, Australian GDP was down an equally imperceptible 0.1%.
So that's why these latest GDP figures are so important.
Josh Frydenberg's happy at the moment because he just found out that in the June quarter, that's the 3 months to June 30, GDP was up 0.7%. He needed that number to be positive because the next quarterly figures, that's July, August, September, are almost certainly going to be negative.
Because of lockdown.
Yep. Only 7% of Australia was in lockdown in those 3 months we've just had. New South Wales was affected in the last week of the quarter only. In the quarter we're in at the moment, more than 40% of Australians are in lockdown.
So the next lot of figures will be ugly.
They'll be brutal. But if you don't know about them, it's like the tree that fell in the forest and nobody's around to hear it. Did it really make a noise? If you don't know you're in a recession, you just keep on keeping on. The very act of knowing you're in a recession makes the recession worse.
So what do we do?
Well, just go about your life. Make sure you get a sausage in a bun on the way to Optus Stadium. I'm Ben Harvey. For more update, click the subscribe button below.